Hi guys, and welcome back to DTW Wellbeing Podcast. I hope you had a nice week, and I hope you enjoyed last week's podcast. Last week we discussed self-care for success. Okay, so yeah, crucially important. You gotta look after yourself. You know, you're the most important person in your world, and you gotta look after yourself. I think that makes sense. And then, you know, if you look after yourselves, you can look after other people then, you know, but you come first. I had a strong philosophy. I have a strong philosophy that I firmly decided for myself a few years ago. And I was like, I'm number one and everybody else is a close second. I think that way everybody benefits. So yeah, it's important to look after your own well-being and self-care and self-love. That comes from the inside of the well-being bubble that I discussed. I discussed a lot actually. So well-being bubble, I don't leave home without it, but it's a metaphor for how I look after myself. So I am in the center of the bubble. It's around me. It's like a force field, and on the inside, I give myself self-care through my lifestyle, self-love through like my self-talk, I guess, and trying to give myself some like compassion and the same compassion and care and sympathy and empathy that I give to other people in my world. I make sure I give to myself first. It's important. Why wouldn't you give it to yourself first? I saw something recently and it was fascinating. It was like, you know, if you made a list of all the people in the world that you love, and if you listed them, how long would it take for you to name yourself? You're number one. You should be number one, guys. Look after yourself. So yeah, so inside the well-being bubble, I look after myself, and then that force field kind of protects me then from the outside world too, you know. So there's a dual benefit to it there. I think there's some merit in it, and it works for me. I think I'm pretty well. So thank you, Bubba. So today we're going to talk a little bit more about self-care. Actually, it'll definitely be touched upon, but I'm going to be talking about comparison today and comparisons, right? And how comparisons can lead us down the road to depression. It does. I can speak from experience. It does. And comparison and regret, they're the two big highways to depression. Regret about the past and comparison between your life and the lives of others. They trigger depression. They can lead to depression. So watch yourself there. Right. So we're going to talk about comparison today. I talked about regrets already. We'll definitely touch on that again. But like for today, let's just focus on comparisons. And I'm going to speak from it kind of from two perspectives. Right. So I'm going to talk about your personal responsibility to yourself, and I suppose that would come into the category of self-care, like we discussed, or like how I mentioned. And then I'm also going to talk about like an obligation that we have kind of societally, so like how we operate, so like that outward communication, so that we can lessen the burden on others. I think that is an obligation and responsibility that we all have. And I think if you do those two dual processes, if you like look after what you allow in, you know, that inward communication, if you frame that in the correct way, and then you do your part to not make the problem on the macro sense worse, well then I think we're making progress, and we definitely have a chance to lessen the burden on others, and we can reduce levels of depression. You know, this is stuff that we can do. But first and foremost comes with yourself. So like comparison is the thief of joy. Theodore Roosevelt said that. Right, bang on. It is a thief of joy. So we could be happy about stuff in our lives, just happy about what's going on, and then we look at somebody else, and for whatever reason we think what they have is better than what we have, and then all of a sudden what we had 10 seconds ago that we were happy with, it's not so good anymore. And it's terrible. It's so bad. And I know it from personal experience. So 2008, you know, depressed, hospitalized, like high levels of anxiety, the worst, suicidal ideation, like crisis point for Daniel Toomey, 2008. And I remember just comparing, like obsessively comparing my life at that point to others. And because I had to take a year out of university after already repeating a year in university, I was like, I am so far behind everybody I did Leaving Cert with. All my peers are at a certain stage in their lives, and look at me, I'm a joke. And I remember being in my bed in Carrigaline, and I was just like, I couldn't stop comparing that chapter to the chapter of other people's lives. I could not help compare where I was in life to everybody else and feeling worthless and feeling, a waste of potential and all these sort of things. Whereas, like, whatever the situation was, looking outwards at other people didn't help. And we're going to talk about that today, hopefully. So it's going to be, again, a personal perspective for everybody as an individual, what you can do to lessen that, because unfortunately it's natural, it's normal. Like, it has to be, because everybody I know does it, so it has to be normal. It's ridiculous, but it is the common. It's what's going on. It's silly, but it is going on ubiquitously. It's everywhere. Comparison, and it's silly. But I'm going to talk about how we can do things to help ourselves in that regard. And then hopefully, if you're like me and like, I just want to improve society and make things a little bit better than they are. And like, I think everybody should be like that at this point. Like, if you didn't want the world to be a better place than it is currently for your children, like, you're a sadist. That is bad. Because at the moment there's loads of shit going on that it's unnecessary. It shouldn't be happening to us, but we shouldn't want it for anybody else and future generations. Like, we can change that. We are the people. Like, we are the population. We are the human beings, So the stuff that we complain about, well, we're complicit, but we have a position of, like, we can change things if we really wanted to. So the second half of the podcast is going to be talking about that. Like, what can we do to maybe improve the situation for everybody? Everybody wins then. Present and future, So I have a few ideas. So we'll have a look. So how can we protect ourselves? So self-care and self-love, lads, I talk about all the time, but I think it's about having a realistic understanding of comparison, why we do it, and just getting in a kind of a bit of an understanding on it, right? So social media is a prime example. But it happens in reality too. It happens in normal society too, right? So we're in control of what we show to the world. This mask, right? The mask I show the world isn't really me. That's generally true for everybody. So we tend to put our best foot forward, and oftentimes that has led to such a deception that it's a perfect facade that we show the world. It happens in social media all the time. You can just see it. People putting on a front that their world is perfect, and everybody else sees that. And I know Daniel inside out. I know Daniel just intimately, because I'm Daniel, so I know me warts and all. And then I'm comparing my warts and all existence to this perfect facade that I see on Instagram, other people's lives, the snapshot, the mask that they are comfortable showing to other people. So I'm comparing my warts and all existence to this perfect facade, and I'm making that comparison, even though it's comparing two unlike things, two things that are totally different, an apple and a banana. Like, that's not totally different, but you get what I'm saying. We're not comparing like with like, because I don't know you, and you don't know me. So how can we compare? Nobody knows you as much as you know you. So you can't take you're going on a different point there, but like, you can't take anybody's opinion of you personally, or let it offend you or affect you, or because they don't know you. Their judgments hold no weight. They don't know you. You know you. But with that said, if you know you, and you know you intimately and implicitly, you've lived with yourself all of your life. As long as you've been conscious, you know you. How could you compare that level of knowledge to the snapshot you get, the highlight reel you see of other people's lives, and make comparison and allow it to make you feel bad? So just check out yourself there, because like, everybody is just promoting the highlights, and they're showing what they want to show. And as I said, it happens in reality as well. Like, if we were in a pub or socializing or at a party, people tend to talk about the good stuff in their lives and hide the bad stuff. And then you might leave the conversation going, he or she is doing this, or didn't he or she look great? And why haven't I doing stuff? And why don't I look great? Unfortunately, you're just seeing the good stuff and then making that comparison. So that's inevitably, invariably going to be destructive. It is. So we can control how we react and how we respond to things, but give yourself that compassion. Be kind to yourself and look at the big picture and try to get a grasp on that. I think that's changed. That really is. It can shift your mindset if you just realize that everything you see from another person's perspective is the mask that they're showing you, not real stuff. And you know your real stuff. So don't compare two unlike things. And that comparison, that will help, I think. Yeah, that should help. And then, like what I was speaking about in terms of our obligation, our societal kind of like, in terms of solidarity, we're all in this together. There's 7.5 billion of us, and we're all in this together. And we should all be trying to row in a more favourable direction through collaboration and cooperation and synergy and creating positive change, right? And how we can do that is potentially being a bit more vulnerable. So vulnerability is just being honest with yourself to other people. So that's vulnerability, and probably the easiest way to say it. It's just being honest with yourself to others. And I think if we all were like that, so if we all were just a bit more honest about ourselves, to ourselves first, and then to others, and having that authenticity and that sincerity, and being real, well then at least people aren't comparing their lives to your perfect facade. And you're not making strangers feel bad about themselves. Unnecessarily. And I know nobody's doing it. And I know it's a societal problem. And again, it's cyclical, like I said the last time. I see you, I feel bad because I'm not you. I create another misconception or facade, or I put on a mask to make myself look better to the next person. They feel bad. Everybody feels bad. And it's all bullshit. We're feeling bad about stuff that don't exist. It's all bullshit, and we all feel bad. And I think if we all just stepped up and just became a bit more honest and a bit more real and a bit more sincere, well then that's half the battle, And then the other side, as I said, is just kind of like getting a personal understanding on things and not putting so much pressure on yourself to be different than who you are. Because like I work in like lots of different industries, and I have colleagues, some of which are fitness professionals, some of which are models, some of which are academics. Everybody's got insecurities, and everybody wants to change some of their lives, and everybody would like to be different in some ways, and the stuff you got, other people would love. The problem is that we, as a society, are focusing on we're focusing on what we don't have, as opposed to what we do have. I think if we were just grateful, fucking hell. I think if we were just, if we showed gratitude for what we had, and be appreciative of what we have, and be a bit more introspective, and start liking ourselves for who we are, and not hating ourselves for who we're not. You know what I mean? We'd have a chance then. So yeah, I think that's what we should do. I think we should protect ourselves and get an understanding of what's going on in the world, and knowing that other people's stuff, it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. You've no control there. Even if you wanted to change other people or be other people, you can't. It's futile. You're wasting your time. But if you go inward, and if you focus on you and try to become the best version of you and the happiest, healthiest version of you, well, that's somewhere you have control. And you can be the best version of you. You can't be the best version of anybody else. You can't be any version of anybody else. And without, you just have to drop your ego, try to be true to who you are, find out who you are, try to develop some self-awareness, find out what you like, what motivates you, what you're good at, what you're not good at, and then just fucking give the good stuff steroids. Nobody's you. That's your superpower. Nobody can be as you are. And just be 100% you, and clap for other people. Lift them up. Don't envy them or have jealousy. Like, that's only comes from comparison. And if you focus on you, eventually you'll get there, and you'll be happy. But just stop paying attention to stuff that hasn't any relevance and isn't real. And if we could all make an effort to be a little bit more real and a bit more vulnerable, the world's a better place, lads. And we leave it better than we found it. If you're going to compare your life to anybody else, compare yourself to who you once were. And take pride in the growth and how far you've come. And if you want to compare yourself to anybody else, compare yourself to your future, the best possible version of yourself. That'll make you get up earlier, to work harder. Those are the only healthy comparisons between people. Your younger self and your older self. Chase that and take pride in that. But cut out the noise. Stop comparing to other people or the facade that you see. It's not reality. Look after yourself. Self-care, self-love. Just look after yourself. Nothing else matters. Alright? You know